Well, I'm super excited to have Diego from Playbite on today's episode. Diego, I start these generally by turning it over to the interviewee right away just to kind of give a brief introduction, however you want to take it.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. As you already know, but I'll give you all the pitch to your audience. We are Playbite. We are basically building an arcade on your phone. So if you remember, going to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid, or there's plenty of arcades at the mall still to this day. We're digitizing that experience, and obviously by doing that, you get to come up with some cool new models to entertain people. Another way to maybe think about it too is that we're basically aggregating a lot of simple mobile games into one app. So the app feels very much like a Netflix or a Spotify, but it's simple games that everyone from a toddler to a grandparent could enjoy in one app. So it's really nice because you just get to play all these games in one unified experience, start building your profile, start making friends. We're about to launch playing with friends next week, so that'll make it really exciting because up until this time the app has been a single player experience, but now it's going to start becoming more of a multiplayer community based product, so that's really exciting. So.
Awesome. Yeah, when we first met earlier this summer, shout out to M25 and Abanaya for the warm intro.
Yeah.
I immediately understood what you were trying to do, primarily from the perspective of, I think back when mobile gaming just hit its heyday with Zynga and like Candy Crush and Clash of Clans and all those things. They were all individual apps that you had to download and then individually manage and update and jump into to play the games. It's super cool to think about how in the future, as you get more and more robust in your content library, and you have more, maybe it's even like crowdsourced designs of games and whatnot, just being able to just open one app and stay there in that universe, right? We all like to talk about in the investor world anyway, metaverse,
let me
Web3.
double click on that real
Yeah.
quick. You just like so we have characters in our platform, so you can play our games with characters, and our community of users is already building their own. So like we've shown them how we built them on 3D modeling software, and now they sit down and build their own characters, and the community votes on them, and we publish them. And soon we're gonna let them start modding our games, which just you can take one game and create an infinite amount of experiences with it, and eventually long term the vision is that we will let third party developers publish their own content into the platform as well, right? So definitely community is a big part of it, just from our players, but converting our players into creators inside of our platform. And then
Yes.
sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, you go back to the heydays of when mobile gaming began, and for the most part, what the status quo has been is it's typically, as you said, it has been one app that you download and you open, and it's just that one game, which is fine. It's fun. It's a fun game, but one game cannot stand on its own as a platform for very long, right? People get bored, understandably. And then the other big problem has been, because that's the case, the only way to monetize that business is through aggressive advertising. And that just creates a lot of bad will with the community. So we're really trying to build a platform here where it's a fair trade of like, this is a great platform that has more content every day. It is monetized appropriately through a freemium model of brand sponsorship and subscription for added perks. But it's a platform, not just content, right? So you have a social graph, you have friends, you have more things to do, and I think we're marching on towards building what I think is a really fair trade for entertainment in a Spotify or Netflix type of model, but for games, simple ones.
Yeah, it's funny you talked about the bad will that gets fostered from ads on apps. I think, at least for me personally, and I'm probably speaking for other people that have grown up in the same era that I have, you've almost become accustomed to it. And it's almost become like an art of avoiding clicking on the apps. And so, human beings are so good at being resilient and, becoming accustomed to a certain way of life and just like dealing with it. And I think it's funny because people don't probably think about it, but you're right. When you do go back into those ads and you look at, oh man, this thing is riddled with like landmines of things I click on by accident. Now they track my data and whatnot. So Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
cool.
and I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, we're obviously still figuring out the long-term business model, but we know it'll be a freemium model to a certain degree. So I don't want to say that all ads are bad, but I do think that when you download an app and 60% of the time spent on the app is watching an ad, that's not a good product, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So
I love. Yeah, I like that. I like the idea that you're trying to reinvent the way of creating sustainability for your own company, but also obviously venture backable returns. Before we dive too much deeper into the actual app itself and the company, tell me more about your background. How did you get to becoming the CEO and co-founder of Playbite?
just hearing that sounds crazy. But and you know this already, but I was born and raised in Honduras. So I was lucky to grow up upper middle class. My parents are doctors, so they sent us to a private school. Um, all my life, I went to a very Americanized education system. Like my entire school is run by Americans. I grew up very Americanized. Uh, I think in English, even though it's my second language, kind of thing. And I knew I wanted to come to the U.S. to go to college when I graduated. So I was lucky enough to get a soccer scholarship to go to college when I was 18. And halfway through college, I realized I needed to figure out what I want to do with my life. And I was super into downloading apps and messing around with them, and had the crazy idea that I could make one myself, which I could not. But I was foolish enough to try. And this like that little like foolishness slash bravery, whatever you want to call it, as a sophomore in college or junior in college, I think I was, kind of changed the trajectory of my life. So I built an app for college students. How original, right? As a college student myself. And it was terrible. It barely worked. But this crazy thing happened. One of the guys from Shark Tank, Damon John, founder of Fubu, came to our university. He was doing a book tour, I think, at that time. And so our university was like, hey, Shark Tank's the biggest show in the world at the time, like late 2012, early 2013. I don't remember exactly when. And they wanted to create like a, local pitch competition kind of thing because, one of the judges from Shark Tank was in town. And so we entered with our app that barely worked, and we're lucky enough to win that competition. It was like a $500 check. It didn't change our lives or anything like that. We got a picture of Damon John. But just, again, just like being foolish enough to try to build an app got us to win that thing. Winning that thing got us attention in the local press here in St. Louis, which is where I went to college. And a big tech company from the area saw it and reached out to us and said, like, hey, did you build this? We want to hire you. And so as an immigrant, I'm not a US citizen. To me, it was not only like, oh man, I got to get a job, or I got to figure out if this app thing's going to work by the time I graduate. I also need to figure out a way to stay in this country because that's what I want to do, right? That enables me to actually have a career in tech for the long run and, secure my future family's future, et cetera. And so they hired me and my co-founder at the time right out of college. And I realized very quickly I did not know anything about the tech industry. But, over the 7 years that I worked there, I did learn. I learned in many different aspects: digital marketing, business development, product. And halfway through that journey, I was starting to get kind of bored with what I was doing, but I couldn't quite leave yet because I was in the process of, figuring out my immigration. They were sponsoring me for my green card, etc. But what I started to do was like build games on the side for fun, almost kind of like a side hustle. Like we'll see what happens with what ended up being my co-founders at Playbite. And so we got really good at making games really quickly, right? I always tell people, I probably told you, Adam, when I pitched you, that if you give me an idea for a game, I can have it in your hands in less than a week. And that's a superpower, honestly. Like that's not something anyone can do. And so that started getting us into like dissecting the status quo of casual mobile gaming and thinking of ideas that we could disrupt it, which ended up becoming the thesis for Playbite. So it was a long spiel. I'll let you.
Hey, that's the whole point of this, right? We want to let people get to know you better. So appreciate the thoroughness of your answer.
Yeah,
And for full transparency for people listening, Playbite is one of the first OG investments for Tundra Ventures. So we met earlier this summer. Naturally, we clicked. I think a lot of the life lessons and life history of Diego are ones that resonated with me very closely from a personal, maybe not even personal sacrifice. I didn't sacrifice much in my life, if I'm being honest, but from the perspective of family, right? Sacrifice to get to where you have an opportunity to do, even try something, really resonated with me. And, track record speaks a lot, right? It might be your first time being a founder. However, you've shown consistently that you can take something, turn it into a goal, and then accomplish that goal, right? Even with spinning out individual games here and there. Those are proof points of validation that helped us as investors really say, okay, this is early stage and they're first time founders, but here are the clues that show that they've actually accomplished a lot. And so I guess where I want to transition into based off of that kind of lead in is tell me some of the early success, KPI metrics, traction that you're super proud about at Playbite.
sure. Yeah. So we've published, or the app has 31 games, I think, at this point. We've got 3 more pretty much done and will be released here shortly. We were going much faster, but we've slowed down the content release a little bit to focus on some of the other core loop mechanisms. There's been 2 million plus games played in the platform, and stacking up pretty quickly from there. Tens of thousands of prizes redeemed. And I should specify the prizes. So the way that the shop works, it's a very unified experience of a blend of physical and digital, and what I would say in-universe prizes, right? So we have characters inside of our platform that you can play the games with. We then also have, gift cards are very popular with our gamer cohorts, right? So they want to get a Nintendo thing or a Xbox thing or whatever. And then we also have a lot of knickknacks, electronics. We've given away, I think, 2 AirPods and a Switch.
It feels like an actual Dave and Buster's arcade, except you can scroll through instead of going up to that glass countertop and picking and choosing.
Yeah, we're not constrained by physical limitations, which is cool on the game side too, right? Because on Dave and Buster's, there's only so many machines they can put into one locale. Let's see, we've registered over 30,000 plus users, I think, at this point. We're growing pretty nicely month over month, and currently we're heavily focused on completing, I would say, what the core loop experience is, which is you play fun games, you earn tickets, you get to redeem prizes, and we're building a sustainable model around that activity. So that's the focus right now, and you'll get more details on our future investor updates here in the next couple of months.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it, and I always enjoy our monthly check-ins that we have informally too. I think the stumbling blocks of early stage investing at the angel and pre-seed stage is oftentimes investors are too busy poking holes in the ship as opposed to trying to find ways to patch those holes to help the founder float and move towards their goal, right? So, if everything goes the way you want it to, what is the vision for Playbite?
Yes, great question. I love that question. The vision for Playbite is that it is as ubiquitous as a Spotify or a Netflix. And I'll give you a great example. My brother has a 3-year-old, and he's in his early 30s, and my parents are in their mid 60s, right? They all still use the same Netflix product, right? My nephew, who's a toddler, watches the kids content, right? Cocomelon, whatever. My brother watches whatever drama he and his wife are into at the moment, and then my parents watch whatever my dad is in the mood for that night. And that product is ubiquitous for everyone, right? Same with Spotify, right? My nephew listens to toddler sing-alongs. My brother listens to whatever he's into, and my parents listen to the oldies goodies that they enjoy. And there's 2 billion people that play super simple games on your phone. And I know we're not showing the product here, but I should stress for the audience that the games are simple. Like I can hand that game without any context to you, put it in your hands, and you will know what to do. These are not Fortnite experiences. This is not, NFL or Mortal Kombat or anything like that. They're super simple puzzle games, jumping games, logic games, etc. So there's 2 billion people in the world that play those kinds of games every day. And we're just building the Netflix or Spotify experience of that content. And so the long-term vision is that everyone who wants to entertain themselves with that medium has Playbite installed on their phone. And it's a thriving business on a freemium model where you can totally enjoy it for free with some, complementary revenue models behind it. Or you can say, I love this so much, kind of like I do Spotify. I want zero friction ever, and I want to use it infinitely. I'm going to pay the subscription. So that's the vision for it.
Yeah, I love that because, when we first met, one of the things that I loved though was the opportunity that you created. Like I think of Playbite being the primary island in the middle, and they're building bridges across to generational gaps, right? Like you said, 3-year-old all the way up to 60-year-old. Anyone that knows how to use and operate a mobile phone is intuitively a potential end user from the gaming perspective. I also love the idea that you talked about logic-based games. I also see a world where you can start doing games for, maybe people with special needs, or maybe more like memory games, or things that are more like IQ games too, and mental health and wellness. And so you have the foundation in place to do a lot of cool things. And then ultimately, we'll see where this whole Web3 metaverse thing goes, but being a bridge from traditional platforms into the new paradigm that might be coming in the next 5 to 10 years. So it looks like we were super bullish because of the framework that you've built out is really solid, and there's an opportunity to take it in multiple directions depending on where the most opportunistic potential is.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I think how to say this, like our platform's built in the cloud, right? We don't say like, oh yeah, we're building a cloud company. Yeah, no, it's like, sure, we're building a gaming company that uses technology that's built in the cloud. So if there is great technology to be had on the Web3 side that delivers value to our customers and entertainment to our customers, then we will do it, but never for the sake of creating friction for them. Like
right.
You open up the app, you click a card, you're playing, you're having fun. That if it ever gets any more complicated than that, then we're not doing things right. And so if digital asset ownership is going to be something that the world is going to embrace long term, then a lot of our prizes are digital, so that'll make total sense, right? But we still have those like bespoke, like, hey, it's Christmas, we're giving away a Switch. Who's going to win?
Right. Yeah, and the things I just said prior are all just like the bad habits of VCs, where we like to talk about all the different huge potential outcomes that could come about. And that's part of the reason why we play in such an early stage, right? We don't know quite yet which way you and Playbite are going to go. However, we understand that there's huge opportunities in the future that are out there. So it's exciting.
I mean, people tell you that like, oh, whatever. And as we were going through the process with you and everyone else that came on board, it's like, we know that what you're pitching us today will change. And it's like, I kind of knew that too, but as a first-time founder, it's like, damn, it really does change. Like from one day to another, you learn something that just kind of changes your entire calculus, and you just got to be on your toes every day and
yeah.
We
don't tell you this, right? When we do due diligence, it's part science and it's part art. And one of the art questions is like, we know the product's going to change. Do we think the founder is coachable, and do we think the founder is good at parsing out suggestions, right? Because there's two different things, right? Coachable is basically like we tell you to do something and you do it. And in some ways we would like aspects of that to be true, but in others we want you to take all of our feedback and then as a team make the best decision, because you are ultimately the subject matter expert, right? And so I think like when we look at a company like yours, those are two things that we were like, yeah, definitively yes, we love to join that team and see where they take us. As we kind of wrap this up, wanted to give you a chance to shout out anything that you wanted to, and also shout out social handles or how they can maybe download the app, the most important part of this conversation.
Yeah, biggest shout out, and yeah, you did have it in the notes, so I thought you were gonna ask this question, but like you had like, what is your team superpower or something like that?
Yeah.
Our team superpower is the team, or our company superpower is the team. So I want to do a big shout out to the rest of the team, George, Nick, Stu, Jessica. Like, they really make this thing happen. It's kind of crazy, because I've been talking to a lot of other pre-seed companies, and like I can't take for granted, or I've taken for granted sometimes how much we've like got such a high density of talent in our team. Like, a lot of pre-seed companies are like, give me money so I can go hire someone that can do this. And I feel like we're in a great spot where we're like, we've got the talent in-house already. We can do all these things, and that is huge. So
yeah,
Playbite wouldn't exist without that talent density. And then on the shout outs, you can find us everywhere as Get Playbite, except TikTok, where we're just Playbite. So we were able to just get that handle there. So Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We have a Discord too, so you can come not only talk to me, but our community as well. And I think that's the other shout out too, is just the Playbite community. I'm sure a lot of them will be watching this once you publish it on YouTube. So like, we have the huge advantage of like being like, hey, we're thinking of making this change. What do you think? And having 15 people give us their opinion instantly. And that's huge. It saves you a lot of guesswork. So
yeah, I think you've built out a really robust community and a really robust team, and arguably, like you said, those are some of the biggest downfalls of companies, right? Building resiliency on both sides, the team front and on the community front. And just to make sure everyone knows, it's BITE, not BYTE, right?
Yes. Yeah. And obviously the product itself is available on the App Store, the Play Store, and on web. So you can play it from your mobile web browser. You can play it from your desktop if you want to. It's everywhere. So.
Cool. Well, I think that should do a pretty good job of giving everyone a taste of who you are and what you're building. So thank you so much, Diego. I really appreciate you telling the story about Playbite, and I can't wait for everyone to hear this episode and maybe reach out and download the app and start collecting tickets.
That's good. Thanks,
All right.
Sam.
Take care.